Another Liverpool game, another demoralising, disappointing result, and another draw. The fourth already this season. We had 8 in the entirety of last season. I gotta say, I thought that this 3 week break from matches for Liverpool could be a godsend, could be just what we needed to kickstart the season again. Klopp has proven in the past that when things haven't gone well and he has time on the training ground, time after time, he gets it right. He figures out what the problem is, addresses it, and we come out stronger afterwards. And the start of the season has been so poor. This was the opportunity we needed. The hope was building up in me over the last few weeks that we'd be able to turn it around. And to be honest, the number of excuses have been running out. We've got a lot of the injured players back. The midfield is back stronger with more balance. The same midfield that outplayed Real Madrid for a lot of the final in last season's Champions League. Players were rested. Salah came back early from the Egypt game. Trent dropped out of the squad for the Germany game. Multiple players had a rest, had a chance to get back up to fitness. Thiago wasn't playing for Spain. Matip retired from Cameroon duty. The team had a lot of time to reflect and to put right some of the consistent issues that we've had so far this season. And to be honest, towards the back end of last season. But 4 minutes into this game, and we're behind again. I mean, it's kind of baffling at this point. I'm sure that the team have been talked about starting strong, starting on the front foot, not waiting till we're behind, actually like snap into action and play properly. But it took just 4 damn minutes, and we're behind. When are we going to learn? After 12 minutes, we were 2-0 down. Could have been 4. Alisson made a decent save from a close range header. And there was another opportunity at the far post where if Brighton had their pass right, it would have been a clear sighting on goal. You just can't play like this. It seems like it's so easy to play against Liverpool, to create chances against us. This was Napoli 2.0 all over again. It felt like the commitment was better than in some of the last 2 games. Like maybe players were trying a bit more, even though there was definitely a few levels they could have risen that to. But the organization, the balance of the defense, it's just so easy for the opposition. And Brighton were clever. They were making late runs into the box. They were making runs in between centre half and full back where they were getting so much joy. Trent, again, I mean, I know he's going to get overanalyzed for this game. And he played a role in both Brighton's first 2 goals. The first one, he tried to take it down his chest, got the ball stolen off him. They ran up the pitch and scored. Second one, he got beaten by Trossard pretty easily on the right-hand side. Straight after the game, I saw that there were videos uploaded on YouTube of clips of him making the mistakes. I hope this doesn't become a thing like it has with Harry Maguire, where it's almost like everyone's just looking at him through this microscope, analysing every single mistake he makes, just building up that evidence. Yeah, he can't defend. And then maybe that starts getting in his head. And I mean, maybe that's already happened. The fact is, though, could he have done better for both those goals? Yeah, he could have. If it was a top-class fullback who's maybe quicker on his feet, more switched on, could they have done more to prevent one, maybe both of those first 2 goals? Yeah, I do think so. And the problem is, second half, once we went ahead, once we came back from 2-0 down to get 3-2 ahead, to get into that great position, you could see Brighton's strategy was very clear. Attack down Liverpool's right-hand side. As much as I absolutely love Trent, he's the second most creative player in the league behind Kevin De Bruyne, for God's sakes, who plays far further forward generally. So many of the opposition's chances are coming down our right-hand side. And whether it's him just getting beaten too easily 1v1, or what was often happening against Brighton, they'd simply do an overlap run. They'd get him 2v1. And the thing is, It's so easy to bypass him in the game. He sort of just stands there. He's not kind of on his toes, ready to run back with the runner if the ball is played in. Of course, he should have more cover. But when he is in those positions, he seems to just be played out of the game so easily. And it wasn't just his fault. For the third goal, Van Dijk misses the clearance, which generally speaking is so uncharacteristic of him, but we're seeing the mistakes from him this season just clock up one by one. Man, when that third goal went in, it was so disheartening, but to be totally honest with you, I saw it coming. I wasn't shocked. Once we went 3-2 ahead, the passing started getting sloppy again. We started retreating back a little bit more. Brighton were finding spaces. There were a couple warning signs before the goal. What the answer with Trent is, I don't really know. But we have to face the reality that if Trent is going to be almost like a fourth attacker a lot of the time, he's so far forward. I do sympathise with him because he constantly has to support the attack as one of the furthest men forward. And then he ends up having to sprint back and get in 1v1 defensive positions. And we're so quick to jump on him, but he's covering an incredible amount of ground. The reality is, though, if he's going to play right back, he needs some kind of midfield cover. He needs a Henderson to be able to sit in there and cover for him when he's further up the field. Or if he's up against a tricky winger, to double up on that player. So to play Harvey Elliott, as much as I really like Harvey Elliott, and he's got great potential for sure, but we can't just... Elliott and Henderson are totally different players. And if you look at the stats in terms of where they make their passing, where they make their interceptions, where they have their duels, you can shift everything 30 yards further back, and that's Henderson versus Elliott. They're just playing in different parts of the pitch. I don't blame Elliott for not providing more defensive cover. He's just a different player. But you can't have Salah, Elliott and Trent along the right-hand side. It's so vulnerable. And teams know this. And they're taking advantage of it every single game. Can Trent play as an 8 in midfield? Maybe we have to toy with this. Maybe we have to play around with it. If not, he needs somebody with legs, with more defensive nous to cover on the right-hand side in the midfield slot. Okay, that's enough of that rant on Trent and our defensive play. And by the way, it's not all Trent. The team as a whole has to defend so much better. Let's get back into the actual game. You have to say, Brighton played extremely well. They are a very good side. Very tidy. They have very structured movements to break the press. They press well. They're compact. They're a very good team. But that first 20 minutes, you would have thought Brighton were chasing the top four and Liverpool were a bottom half side. Because every time Brighton went forward, they were slicing through us and they looked like scoring. And Liverpool just couldn't put their passes together. A lot of long balls going astray. They weren't controlling the midfield at all, struggling to retain possession, weren't creating anything. It was a really poor 20-25 minutes. Fair play to Firmino for getting those 2 goals. I mean, he might be up to 4, is he? 4 or 5 this season. He's our top scorer. You would have thought he would be 5th in the pecking order for the forwards, but he took his goals really well. Should have had at least a 3rd with that header from about 5 yards out. Overall, he had some decent hold-up play, gave the ball away quite sloppily as well at times, though. I do feel like sometimes I see him play and I just don't think he's good enough to be starting for us anymore. But then again, he's a top scorer so far this season. So, yeah, I mean, it just shows you that particularly Salah isn't really at it. As I said, we were lucky to only have been 2-0 down after about 20 minutes. But fair play to the team. They started playing a little bit better, got back into the game. Second half, as usual, whatever Klopp does at halftime, he fixes a few little things, ups the intensity. We start playing far better in the second half, easily the better team, winning the ball back further up the pitch, looking more like an actual Liverpool side. And I think Brighton played into our hands a little bit early in that second half, because a lot of sides that they were 2-0 up at Anfield, they would have just sat back, closed the spaces and made it really difficult for us. And to be honest, I don't think we were playing well enough to have broken down a really compact, disciplined defensive side. But Brighton were trying to score more goals. And that's how we got our equaliser. It was on a counter-attack. So, in a sense, Brighton made it easier than it could have been for us to get ahead in the game. I mean, the third goal was an own goal as well. But at that point, you're thinking, okay, we've kind of got away with it a bit here. We've had another comeback. We've been 2-0 down. We played poorly. We've got back ahead in the game. If we could just get 3 points on the board. Just get through the rest of this game. But you could see Brighton slowly get into it and us get more sloppy. And as I said, I wasn't surprised when they equalised. When I saw Milner and Elliott ready to come on after about 60 minutes, I mean, Elliott, fine, but Milner, honestly, why do we keep putting Milner on? And look, he didn't do anything necessarily wrong at left back, but it's like we're just giving him minutes for the sake of it. Once we went 3-2 ahead, it looked like Brighton were going to get an equaliser. We had to change something. But the problem is we don't have any other midfield defensive cover to put on. Fabinho and Thiago, multiple times Brighton were getting in between the defence and the midfield, and you see them trying to run back, but they don't have any proper recovery pace. Henderson's off the pitch at this point. Elliott's further up. Trent is having a hard time at right back. All their attacks are coming down that right-hand side. We needed to... Sometimes you just got to maybe sit back a little bit more. Put another defensive player on. Get solid. But we didn't do that. You can make a case that after Firmino, Liverpool's man of the match might have been Alisson. He made multiple key saves at important moments. And that's not a good sign. Allowing 3 goals at home and your goalkeeper being one of your best players, it's just not good enough. And to be honest, Brighton probably deserved a draw. Possession-wise, it was about 54% Liverpool, 46% Brighton, so pretty even. Shot-wise, Liverpool had 15, Brighton 6. Although the XG was... Brighton had a higher XG. Theirs was about 2.3, Liverpool's 2.15. Which again, I mean, I've said this in previous videos, it just shows you Liverpool are conceding less shots, but the quality of the shots that the opposition are getting are much higher. And a lot of the time, Liverpool's XG, it tends to look okay, but it's just due to the cumulative nature of the fact that they've had quite a lot of shots. The quality of the chances often hasn't been that great. Although, to be fair, Firmino had a few clear-cut ones today. But the point is that those stats aren't of a side that dominated the game at home and deserved to win. Because we didn't. Let's look at some of the other individual performances. Matip, I thought, had a good game. Van Dijk, again, he was at fault for that third goal. He's just not quite at it. Thiago played reasonably well, but even for him, some of his passes were going astray a little bit more than usual. Fabinho, I think better than he has been in previous weeks, but still I would expect more from him, from a player that I consider to be one of the best DMs in the world. He's got more in him. I think partly, though, it's due to that compactness of the midfield. Fabinho doesn't have recovery pace. He doesn't look good 1v1 if there's too much space around him and players can just beat him for pace. He needs to play in tighter spaces with more compactness in the midfield. When I saw that Carvalho was starting on the left side of the front three, part of me likes that. And I love that about Klopp, how he's so brave in playing young players. And obviously, he must have trained well over the last few weeks, more ingrained in the tactics, had a bit of a rest. A lot of the other players were away with international duty. Thought it would be a good idea to start him. It just did not work. And as much as I would have liked it to, I could kind of see that coming. Traditionally, Liverpool are wide players. The thing they have, the key characteristic they have is pace. And ideally, they have strength as well. Because then when they're 1v1 against defenders in the channels, they can actually dominate the defender, or they can always be a threat. I mean, Mane was the supreme example of this. He was an incredible player 1v1. But Carvalho, he doesn't have the pace or the strength to beat his man out wide. And he looked lost out there. It was essentially like playing a man short offensively. And he came off at half-time, wasn't surprised at all. Even when that change came in, Diaz made a huge difference straight off the bat. And it was so clear. The first time he gets the ball, his immediate instinct is to move forward and try to beat his man with close control and nice touches. And what happens? The defence immediately backs off, and then Liverpool, the whole side, can push further forward and we retain the ball. Carvalho just doesn't offer that same threat. And the few times he looked better were when he came shorter in more of a 10 position or dropped deep, which is probably more his game. He's not a wide forward in this Liverpool system. Salah, again, I mean, look, if you didn't know who any of the players were and you just thought Salah was your average Premier League player, you'd say, yeah, he had a good game. He worked hard. He did some good running. He had a couple half chances. But we're meant to be talking about one of the best players in the world. And he just doesn't look like it. He's falling over at times, which you rarely see from him. His first touch is just off at times. Things just aren't quite working out for him. He scored a brace for Egypt on international duty a week or so ago, and we're just waiting for him to reignite his previous form. But he's only got 2 Premier League goals this season from 7 games. And that's continuing on from a worrying trend that he had at the tail end of last season, since the African Cup of Nations. He's trying really hard, but we desperately need Salah to kick back into gear. Darwin Núñez, what is he thinking now? He got on for the last couple minutes. 7 games into Liverpool's Premier League season, he's only got 1 goal. 2 Champions League games as well, hasn't scored in those. I mean, not super promising, to be honest. Obviously, Klopp, I mean, he did play in international duty as well, so Klopp was probably aware of that, but is Klopp not really trusting him in terms of his overall play in the front 3, which, to be honest, hasn't been great so far? I know it's still early days, and I do have full confidence that Núñez is going to come good. But these are things you would be a little bit concerned about. Overall, that's Liverpool's 7th game in the Premier League this season. They've scored 18 goals, and their goal difference is +9. If you strip the Bournemouth game out of that, which we won 9-0 against a side whose manager was sacked after 3 games, that would mean after 6 games, our goal difference is 0. And that would mean we've scored 9 goals from 6 games, excluding the Bournemouth game. It's poor. It's really poor. And we're running out of excuses. We had our best midfield back in this game. The best balance we have in midfield. We have all our forwards back. We have players coming back from injury. Matip's back in defence. And we're still putting in performances like this. It's still that easy for teams to play against us. And now we've got 2 games a week for the next month or 6 weeks or so. Arsenal away next in the Premier League, and then Man City at home. It doesn't get any easier. And to be honest, if we keep playing the way we're playing, if we're as defensively poor as we have been against City, against Holland, oh my God, it could be bad. We need to get back to basics. We need to start defending properly. Being hard to beat, being hard to play against. Because right now, it's just too easy to cut through us and create chances. And until we correct this, I mean, we're not particularly firing on the offensive side either, but get it right defensively. We need to go on a run and soon. I mean, the league, I've been saying it for the last few weeks, forget the league at this point. There was a small part of me really hoping that we'd get back to the Liverpool of last season after this 3-week break and put a run together. But right now, you're kind of thinking, the way we're playing, top 4 is probably all we can hope for. And even for that, we need to get it right and get it right soon. Hopefully, the team can put in a proper performance against Rangers on Tuesday and follow that up with a win on Sunday against Arsenal. We're not necessarily playing like we're capable of it, but we know we've got it in the locker. And we got to turn it around soon. See you in the next video.